In the summer of 1565, the largest army in the world crossed the sea to erase 500 knights from the earth. The knights did not run, they did not break, and what they did on a rock in the middle of the Mediterranean may have saved Christendom. Malta, a sun-scorched island, barely more than stone, sitting at the throat of the Mediterranean. Whoever held it held the sea lanes between east and west. Holding it was the Order of St. John, the Knights Hospitaller, a religious order, men under vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience who had buried their dead from Jerusalem to Rhodes and been driven from both. Malta was their last redoubt granted to them after Rhodes fell. In May of 1565, the Ottoman Empire, or worse than the most powerful state on earth under Suleiman the Magnificent, sent a fleet to take it. The numbers were not close, roughly 40,000 attackers. The defenders, around 500 knights, and perhaps 6,000 to 9,000 Maltese militia and soldiers. At the head of the defense stood an old man, Grand Master Jean Parisot de la Valette. Around 70 years old, he had once been a galley slave in chains. He did not ask whether they could win. He prepared his men to die well. The Ottoman plan was simple. Take the small star fort guarding the mouth of the harbor, Fort St. Elmo, in a few days, then crush the rest. St. Elmo held for nearly a month. Every night under fire, men rowed across the harbor to relieve the garrison, knowing most of them would not come back. When St. Elmo finally fell, almost none of its defenders were left alive, but they had spent something the Ottomans could never get back: time. And they had spent the life of the Ottomans' great corsair commander, Dragut, killed in the bombardment. One Ottoman commander, staring at the ruin of the little fort that had cost him so dearly, is said to have asked what the rest of the island would cost, now that the sun had been so expensive. Through the furnace of July and August, the assault fell on the towns of Birgu and Senglea. Wave after wave, mines beneath the walls, breaches open and filled with bodies and closed again by men who should already have been dead. When his officers begged La Valette to pull back into the last stronghold, Fort St. Angelo, he refused. He would not give his men a place to retreat to. They would hold the walls or die on them. An old man with a pike stood in the breach himself. In early September, after nearly 4 months, the long-promised relief force, the Gran Soccorso, finally crossed from Sicily. The Ottoman army, exhausted, bled white. Its commanders, out of season and out of time, broke off the siege and sailed for home. The rock had held. Europe understood what had happened. Bells rang in cities that had braced for invasion. 2 centuries later, Voltaire wrote that nothing is better known than the Siege of Malta. The new fortress city the knights built afterward they named for the old man who would not break, Valette. But strip away the geopolitics, and here is what is left for a man to carry: a few hundred men, vastly outnumbered, with every earthly reason to fold, and they decided that some things are held to the death, or they are not held at all. They were not great because they won. The relief was never in their hands. They were great because they would not break, and they left the outcome to God. That is the question Malta puts to you. Not, will you win? What will you hold to the death? Your marriage, your children's faith, your own soul against the thing that has been winning lately. Hold the wall, brother. The relief is God's to send. Altar, arms, allegiance,